Christian content creation is becoming a big thing, a massive thing. Wait, massive? Like I said, Christian content creation is becoming a big thing. And honestly, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm fully in support of it. I'm a Christian creator myself. But there's a massive difference between being a Christian content creator and being a content creator who's being used and spoken through and worked through by Jesus in this social media space. In this video, I'll lay out the differences between a Christian content creator and what it looks like to actually be Christ's content creator. And I'll also show some examples of some people who are Christ's creator but not Christian creators, Christian creators who aren't being used by Christ, and some places where these two spaces overlap. A Christian content creator is simply someone who creates content about Jesus. Like me, Bryce Crawford, Realism, Mike Majez, anyone who creates content about Jesus, creates Christian content, is a Christian content creator. But even though those people that I've named, Mike Majez, me, Realism, have good intentions, they are being used by God to spread the gospel, the same isn't true automatically for every single Christian creator. Just because you create content about Jesus doesn't mean that your heart is pure in it. Maybe you're just using Jesus for views. Maybe you're just using Jesus for money instead of actually using social media for Jesus instead of Jesus using you for his kingdom. So a Christian content creator is simply someone who creates content about Jesus, no matter if their intentions are pure or if their intentions are impure. But what does it look like to be used by Jesus in this content space? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a Christian content creator, even though you could be, like I am, Bryce Crawford is, for example. But it simply means that God is using you and speaking through you, working through you in this content space, in the niche that you're in. This says nothing about the kind of content you create. You could be a musician, a gamer, a sports analyst, I don't know. But it just shows that God is using you. That's what it means to be being used by God. It doesn't necessarily mean being a Christian creator. For example, you could be a gamer who's vocal about their faith, spreads the gospel through their energy, through their positive energy, and spreads the love of Jesus. That would be Christ's content creator, not necessarily a Christian creator. This, as opposed to simply being a Christian content creator, does say something about your intentions. It says that they're pure. It shows that you aren't using Jesus for views or likes because Jesus is using you in your niche in whatever content you create, or if it's something else, it's a sport or whatever. Creators who are being used by Christ have pure hearts and godly intentions always. But now I'll name some people who are simply Christian creators but have impure intentions, aren't Christ's creators. Some people who are Christ's creators that are using like their platform to spread the gospel via just showing God's love and via their energy, but aren't necessarily Christian creators. And some people who overlap. They are being used by God as a Christian content creator, you know what I'm saying? And I'm also going to mention some people who may be actors, maybe musicians. They aren't all going to be creators. I just want to show you this difference between someone who is using Jesus for money and someone who is being used by Jesus to spread the gospel, whether that's Christian creation or some other form of creation or totally different niche, totally different industry entirely. Someone who is being used by Christ but not creating Christian content is Ninja. He's been on live stream talking about Jesus, about his faith, while he's freaking playing Fortnite, bro.
Yes, dude, Jesus is king. I mean, and even if you don't think he is, don't judge me for it, and I won't judge you for it, man.
God is definitely using Ninja as a content creator in the gaming space without Ninja being a Christian creator. God is using Ninja right now. And that's a great example of someone who's being used by Jesus, but isn't necessarily a Christian creator all the way. Someone else who's like this is Connor Price. He doesn't make a bunch of Christian music. Most of his music isn't Christian. I think he's had like maybe 5, 6 or 7 songs about Jesus, but he's been somewhat vocal about his faith, spreading the positive energy of Jesus throughout his music and his content. But someone, or actually not someone, something who talks about Jesus without having pure intentions is prosperity gospel preachers like Joel Osteen, Kenneth Copeland, Benny Hinn, who preach that God will give you money, health, thriving relationships in your life, and that's what God's here to give you. And they preach that God is simply just a magic genie who makes everything magically work out for good in your life. But that couldn't be further from the truth. God is not here to give you material things, but He wants to improve you and shape you to be the best possible version of yourself that He knows you need, not that you think you need or want. He may send trials and tribulations your way to test you. The Christian life isn't all sunshines and rainbows like these prosperity teachers teach. God is not here to give you what you think you want, but He's here to shape you into who He knows you need to become. So those prosperity preachers are speaking about Jesus, but are definitely not being used by Jesus for the gospel. But some people who fall into the overlap, Christian creators who are being used by Jesus. Not one, not the other, but both at the same time. Me, for example, Bryce Crawford, Realism, Forrest Frank, Mike Maladez, so many others are being used by Jesus and creating Christian content or music about Jesus, but we aren't using Jesus for views, clicks, money, or fame, but we are being used by Jesus to spread His true gospel. So I hope you see that contrast between someone who is merely creating content about Jesus and someone who is actually being used by Jesus to create content. Christian content creators, Christian musicians, and Christian pastors don't always have pure intentions, so beware of that. But those being used by God aren't always just going on mission trips and going in their hometown feeding the homeless or even talking about Jesus online. But it could simply be God could simply be using them to spread the gospel through their good energy, whether it's through like Ninja streaming and talking about Jesus a little bit, not necessarily that being the main topic of a stream, for example. School teachers, gaming streamers, music artists, God can use them all even if they aren't actively preaching. It could be passive through their energy, through showing God's love. If you liked this video or learned anything from it, pray to God in thankfulness for this video, that He gave you a screen to watch it on, a day to be able to consume it, and that He gave me the words to speak. He scripted this video, wrote through me, He recorded this video through me, He spoke through me in this video, He edited this video through me. So thank God that He put this video on your screen today for you to learn and glean from. I don't want to pressure you to click a like, follow, or whatever the freaking heck is on these social media platforms now, but instead just pray to God in thankfulness for this video. And with that, peace out and God bless.